If those of you who don't know us, we are the Dog Gurus. The Dog Gurus helps pet care businesses launch, grow, and profit. We offer business consulting services as well as training programs for pet care businesses. So I am Shantae Marquez, who is the business development guru and profit network coach. And today I'm with Anna Radel, who is a profit network coach and owner of Field Animal Inn in Maryland. So Anna, would you like to give them a little bit more background about yourself?
Yeah, great. Thank you. So I have been coaching for a little bit over a year now with the Dog Gurus. I've had my facility for 20 years now. We bought an old existing business with a line of credit for our house or home equity line of credit. I like to tell that to people so that they know I started out with nothing. And so now we are a pretty large facility. We have, about we average about 100 dogs a day, and we are full service. And I also was a founding member of the PAC board and a board chair for PAC for about 3 years. So I love talking the business of pet care. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, definitely. You have a ton of great advice and knowledge about the industry. So definitely feel really happy that you're joining me today. Now, today's topic is about staff, how to improve staff accountability. But before we get started, I'll go over a few things. So during our chat, we welcome questions, comments, or feedback. Please, the more the merrier. If you ask us questions, we will definitely answer them for you, and it helps have a more robust conversation that I know people will benefit from. And then just to let everybody know, next week on May 24th, we will be discussing confronting the fear of price adjustments and the dreaded multi-pet discount. So Carrie Campbell will be joining me. She's another Profit Network coach. But if you need to adjust your prices but are paralyzed by the idea of doing it, which I think we can all identify from, or you just have the fear of backlash from clients and it's just too intense to actually go through and make that price adjustment, I'm here to tell you, we totally understand. We've all been through it. We've all felt that way. But I'm telling you that the story in your mind is much worse than how the outcome will actually be. So Carrie's awesome. Let's do this next Wednesday, May 24th at 3:30 p.m. and let's talk about it. So now, without further ado, let's get to the at hand and talk about staff accountability. And first, I'm going to share a very personal story about this. And I questioned whether I should share this or not, but I'm going to go, I think people can identify with it. So I'm going to go forward for it. So last fall, I had to go back to California and actually stay with my aunt and help her put her husband into a memory care facility. She was having some health concerns of her own, and she needed to take some time and take care of herself. So the bit is that I was really surprised at how evident it was that they did not have proper staff accountability or SOPs. Now, without getting too far down in the weeds of many examples that I could probably list off, I'll just give you one. My aunt moved him in, and then a week and a half later, she needed to go and take care of some things for herself, and she was away for a week. When she finally came back, she was staying with him all the time, sleeping there because it was a hard, difficult transition for her. But she realized sheets had never been in the bed, which is crazy to me. Okay, this is, people we're talking about. So she asked me to help assist her on addressing the situation with the facility. So when I asked about it, I said their excuse was, well, he was always in the room when it was that time to go change his sheets. And I said, well, whose job is it to make sure and go back and make sure that that was done? And then their response was really nothing. And I said, well, then their standard operating procedure when patient or the resident is there in the room and you guys need to do some cleaning. And it was silence. They didn't really have anything to say to me about it. So what it was evident to me is that they did not have proper accountability, and they didn't have proper standard operating procedure to deal with.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Shantae, but several people are having problems here. There's apparently some feedback or echo. Is that also when I'm speaking, or is it just when Shantae is speaking? Wait for someone. They said they were hearing every few words. I felt the same thing. It was like a lag. Yes, a lot. Very hard to hear. A lot of echo. I don't know how to fix that.
Yeah, we are
I can
having.
hear it on our side, but apparently when it's a little, sounds like
Oh,
maybe just Shantae. Okay, so it's just Shantae, but then
okay.
someone's
So you know what I'll do, Anna? Stay on. I'm gonna jump off and then jump back in.
okay.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, it's Samantha saying the same thing. All right, it'll take her just a second to jump off and on, and hopefully you guys got most of her story about her uncle in the. Okay, can you guys see you're saying, Edmund? Do you guys hear me better now? Now that she's off, I'm so sorry. I don't know what we could have done differently. Maybe when Shantae is speaking, Anna, can you mute yourself? I will do that. She should be back any second.
Can you hear me? Better?
Mhm.
Yep, better? Okay. Okay, weird. All right. Maybe it was my computer. I don't know. Anyways, we were trying to figure that out earlier. So, I don't know if I should go back into that story because it was kind of a lengthy one, but were you guys able to hear any of it better?
I could, but I also
Okay.
knew, and I think my connection was better. But I think the gist of it, of course, is important that everyone gets. So if you want to talk about the very end and what you
Yeah,
found out about.
basically, when I asked about a customer service issue, I just asked who's accountable and what is your standard operating procedures for when you do need to perform a task, but at that moment, maybe a resident is in the room and you can't do it, and it was silence. So what was evident to me is that look, they didn't have staff accountability and they didn't have SOPs. And the bottom line is that it created very poor customer service. And it resulted in us checking my uncle out in less than 2 months because this was evident in very many ways. And I think that we can relate to that because look, I mean, we promise a certain level of standard of care. And can you imagine if because the dog didn't want to come out of their suite that we never just went in and cleaned it? I mean, that's ridiculous. So look, we have in place operate standard operating procedures to deal with situations like that. And so that is one way that I have found that has really helped my staff accountability, standard operating procedures, an operations manual, and having a really defined duties list. So Anna, why don't you share a little bit about how you create great staff accountability in your facility?
Great. So I'm not sure I use the word great because it's an ever changing thing. I always feel like with our procedures, we are always trying to improve on them. And so, what I learned early on was obviously having a printed manual and procedures really did only good for me. Even my supervisors and leads weren't particularly looking at those things. And so, it's not until you actually hold them accountable. And when I say hold them accountable, you're calling them out on it. So, you're actually saying, here's a checklist. I want to see the checklist when it's done. So we actually do daily, midday, we do a shift change checklist. We have many checklists. And so checklists to me are a form of accountability. And so for us, and when you stopped, checking in on those checklists to make sure that they're complete and not just checked off, but there's details on there. Anytime we kind of get away from that habit, things start to, fall through the cracks and there's issues. And so I do think that when you're talking about accountability, it's actually being in the facility and actually making sure someone is discussing and looking at things. There's nothing like being there yourself. And I know we often talk about, working on our business, not in our business, but remember our job is to be owners. And so you do have to have, for many of us, I mean, at least you would have a manager doing that part, but you do have to have somebody showing up to make sure things are getting done. And so we do a midday checklist where all of the leads come together, they do a walkthrough, and as they're changing the shift, they discuss what's been done, all the details of the care for the animals. We also keep notes on performances for the staff every shift. So if there's something that was good, we try mostly good things, we keep notes and then we compile those. And then from that, we choose our employee of the month. And so it's not just, oh, we feel like she was doing a good job this month. No, she notably chipped in to help out with this or that. And there's usually things based on fact of what happened. I mean, I can go on and on about it, but checklists are my big thing. And if anyone hasn't already embraced checklists, please read the Checklist Manifesto. It's a great book and it talks about, I mean, pilots, surgeons, everyone uses checklists. So, of all professions. So, there's nothing bad about a checklist.
I personally love checklists. I mean, I get great satisfaction by actually crossing stuff off. Sometimes when I create a to-do list for my morning or that day, I'll put stuff that I know I've already done just so I can at least cross off one at the beginning.
I do that.
But one thing that I think is really important, yes, have the checklist, have your standard operating procedures, but also explain your expectation of the outcome of what the task that you're trying to do. So if you are cleaning a suite, then I would define what does it mean to be clean. I mean, is because look, my version of clean could be different than maybe the newest employee's version of clean. So does that mean it smells good? It's free of pet hair. There's no debris in the corners. Are all the sides, every side of the suite cleaned and wiped off? I mean, I think that you really need to specifically define their duties and what your expectation of the outcome to be for it to be done to your level, quality level.
Yeah, we use a term called tour ready. I don't know if that's what other people say, but our staff, excuse me, I used to be like they used to say Anna ready, but no, it's tour ready. So we allow people to come in and take tours of our facility at any time. And so we want to make sure that it's ready for a tour. And so, we don't want them to leave out cords and like just those things that they seem to forget. So we want it to be tour ready. And I would say that with the checklist and the procedures and all of that, you you have to be detailed. And so I just was talking to Alex. We did an IBPSA thing on time studies, and that should be part of your procedures. So when you're defining procedures, you should think about doing a time study, as formal or informal as you want. But over the holidays, we had 100 lodging dogs, and I kind of noticed, and I'm in my office a lot, and so I was just like, God, that person's been taking forever to prep meals. And we had 100 lodging dogs, and I don't remember it taking so long, right? Probably because when I was in it, I wasn't paying attention. So one day I said, I'm going to do it and I'm going to time it because I know exactly how it's supposed to be done. It took me 2 hours to prep 100 meals because everyone's different, but we allow people to bring their own food in and, add things for the ones who aren't eating and all those notes. And so that was a huge eye opener for me. And so having reasonable expectations. So not just saying, all right, we're going to all get that done in 30 minutes. Well, that's not possible. And so knowing that not only am I going to have somebody prepping meals for 2 hours, but I also have to replace what they were doing or what you're expected to do. Somebody has to be in there to help out. So you got to really be reasonable. And as we're getting busier and busier this time of year, I think we think that they can keep working at the same pace. And that's really tough. Oh, we do videos. I should say that's one of the things I was thinking about too. We just started doing videos. And so we're live now speaking about that.
Yeah, well, Bowser's Pet Training just asked if we are talking about staff accountability. Is it still happening? It is. And Agene says that they love checklists. So they agree.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I was saying about videos. We do staff meetings every week for 2 hours, or every other week. And so last week, what we did was instead of meeting, we gave out assignments to pairs of staff members, and they had 2 hours to make a video on that particular thing. And so we had, it looks like they have that too. Don't know what's going on with that. Sorry, everyone who's not seeing what we're seeing, but there's some different messages going on. But anyway, let's go back to the videos. So with the videos, I think it was awesome to have the staff doing the videos because we picked the people that were particularly good at, disinfecting outside or inside. And we had them really show everybody step by step. And videos are huge. Everyone likes to just do that rather than read the procedure. So that has been a big help for our staff, especially with the high turnover recently.
Okay, looks like Bowser's Pet Training is having some issues, so I'm gonna just go ahead and chat with them on the side.
Okay. So, I would love to hear people's questions about what they find, what they're finding. Are you finding certain things being more difficult to keep people accountable for? How are you dealing with the turnover? Because we all have a lot of turnover right now. And keeping those new people, trained and then holding them accountable is particularly tricky, I think.
Yeah, I just told Bowser's to try logging out and logging back in if they can't hear us, because it sounds like they're having a little bit of a problem hearing us, but they are chatting with us, so I'm confused. But
Hang on.
yeah, so what was your question to the audience here? I'm
I
sorry.
was asking them, what challenges they're facing right now with accountability, because right now, if you can believe it, it's even worse than when you sold your place. It's gotten so bad, the turnover, and then the pool of people has really, really diminished. And so we are finding that we are having to really handhold through the training process and really double checking on everything right now. So I suspect a lot of people are experiencing that. And
Well,
that's what I was just asking.
yeah, I also think that part of the problem is that, there's a lot of new staff coming in. And so if you really don't have those foundational training materials set in place or systems in place, then this is where you're going to see things fall through the cracks, or you're going to feel like you keep training and training and training the same person and they're not getting it. Well, that has to do with your systems. Okay. It's not necessarily the person in place. Maybe it could be a little bit of the person in the position, but I would tend to think that if you have your systems really strong, then it will be easy for a new person to come in and start working and learning their job. Now, I was going to also say some of the benefits of having great staff accountability is that, look, I'll kind of run through the list, is that it helps support your quality of goals. It ensures consistent quality results. It helps you delegate work so your managers aren't doing everything, constantly running and fixing everything. It's going to ensure efficiency, saves time and reduces mistakes, and it allows for staff cross training as well. And it also just eliminates the staff drama. Before, I really had my systems in place, and I had at my facility a duties list where the staff would come in and they would see which list they were assigned, and it would go through every half hour of the day what exactly they were supposed to be doing and assigned. And before I put that in place, I got a lot of, oh no, I thought they were going to do it, or their job, or oh, I didn't realize I was supposed to do that. Well, once I put that in place, all that went away, and then it was very clear who was accountable to get that task done at the end of the day. So Allison says checklist. You prefer paper, whiteboard, digital, or some combination of those?
All of them.
All of them.
All of them.
It just
All
depends
of
on
them.
what works for your facility, honestly.
We're getting that feedback again for your, I don't know if you want to check, but I don't know if anything's changed for you. But for me, we actually have them laminated and posted. So if it's a lodging checklist, let's say for the cattery, what they have to do, that there's a checklist that is posted in that space. And then they also have a set of checklists for the shift. And so they have to complete all of those. Another way to hold them accountable with the checklist is that we would double check them, and then the ones that at the end of the day were completed properly with notes and all of that, we would put those aside and we fold them up and we put them into a bucket, and at the end of the month we would pick a winner, and that shift, whoever was participating that shift, they each got prizes. So I'm really big on you get more with a carrot than a stick. And so we try to do a lot of fun incentivizing to get people to be accountable for things. So we did, like with the Dog Guru games, the daycare games, we did our own prizes internally, weekly and then overall. And so that kept everybody wanting to do it. And so, you want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to win something. So we have a lot of fun doing that stuff.
I love that idea, and it makes it fun. It's important to also make sure that everybody's not stressed out too. So I love that you incorporate games. Sarah
Yeah.
says, my challenge is leads that are not comfortable holding attendance accountable and giving feedback. Any specific staff management training you would point to? I had them do courses on Udemy already.
The, I don't know, maybe that's the Pet Guru College, maybe. Exactly. I think you're great. I agree with you. And so, they have there's a little point when somebody goes from being a pet care technician, attendant to a lead or a supervisor. There's definitely always that natural transition time where they don't feel comfortable telling people what to do or going back and not reprimanding but correcting people. And what I try to explain to everybody is it's not personal. And so many of the people that we have in our staffs, first of all, are women, okay, and then very, very touchy feely people because we're animal people, right? And sensitive. But what I try to remind people is it's not personal. There are tasks. And so I try to coach my team leads and supervisors to look at it from a professional standpoint and say, I need this particular thing done. Take away all of the inflection in your voice and all of your personal biases, and you need to put those aside and just explain this has to get done. And if, I'm also not opposed to telling people why. Some people are like, I shouldn't have to tell them why. Well, this generation of employees wants to know why. So just take the time and tell them why. I mean, people are like, why can't we wear scrubs? I don't allow scrubs or leggings or sweatpants. Well, reason why is because dogs pull those down in daycare. Okay. And so I don't want those visuals burned into my eyeballs for, ever. And so we make a joke about it and we share that. And so then people are like, oh, okay. But then there's an enforcement point. So if you have your leads and the staff is not listening to them, then we have a very strict standard of reprimand. So we have verbal conversations, then we go into the write-ups and retraining. And sometimes you're going to have to step in, and you're going to have to make sure your leads know that you have their back. So they told someone something and they didn't do it, you're going to send them home, or whatever it might be. But I do think that that's a big part, is making sure that your leads feel empowered and know that, hey, you have the right to send someone home, and with mine they have a right to fire somebody, but they better be able to explain to me why they did it, in the moment. But we have a lot of discussions. We have leadership meetings once a week, we do training, and we try to talk a lot about what's going on out there.
Yeah, and I think also just changing the language of how you position your leads is helpful. So Anna, you used the word that we coach them to do this. Now I started calling my managers coaches, because
Hmm.
coaches is looked at as less threatening, as well as ongoing. It never ends, right? You're always coaching, a team that just never goes away. So, my managers were in the head that, okay, we have this 60-day, 90-day training plan. Once it's done, I have to tell them how to do something. And that's not necessarily the case. So once I started telling them that, you guys are a coaches are ongoing, it presented it different, framed it differently in their head, and they realized, oh, okay, I need to constantly actively be helping them to do the job in the expectations of that Shantae wants,
Remember we did that. So I guess last August, Shantae and I did a presentation on accountability. And in the research, we found someone called themselves the chief reminding officer, because really we all say, oh, I have to tell them the same thing over and over and over. Well, guess what? That's your job. Okay. As a team lead, as a supervisor, as an owner, as a manager, that is our job. It is frustrating. And so there are things you can do to reinforce and incentivize, but ultimately, that's our job. I used to come in, so earlier on, I was like, oh, I can't get my work done, my financials, my this, or that, because I'm always doing, reminding and teaching. But I realized that's my job. And so I stopped looking at it as, a chore or, something that was a distraction, and started embracing it as this is a big portion of my day. Now, don't ask me what I want for dinner at night at the end, because I am tired of telling people things, and opinions. But I do think that everyone is going to have to, you have to really teach them, this is your job. It's okay. It's not personal. Take the emotion out of it and look at the best for your clients and your pets that you're taking care of.
yeah.
Yes, it's going to be good.
And then also the other thing that I was going to say is, when my managers come to me and say, well, I've already told them how to do that. I've told them over and over again. My response is, well, maybe you should demonstrate it for them. if if telling them the same way, that means that's not their learning style. We have to adjust the way that we're teaching something to be how the student learns. And that might be different for each individual. So we also have to keep that in mind and realize that people learn different ways. If telling them isn't working, then demonstrate and have them demonstrate for you and have them demonstrate for you and have them demonstrate for you until you feel like they have a really good grasp on it. And of course, always be kind when we are coaching them or showing them opportunities for improvement. But that's another thing just to keep in mind, because I talk to my clients and I often hear that, and my response or challenge to them is, why don't you shadow them and demonstrate so you can see how they're doing it and where they're going wrong in the steps.
That's such an important point, Chante. I think it's totally, it just goes like back to the question of paper, electronic, posting. Yes, all of those things, because everyone learns and really absorbs things differently. And so some people might need that visual reminder. Some people might need to carry around a list. Our manager has these little 3x5 cards that she laminated with like different tasks that they need to do, like side work, and she literally hands them out to them at the beginning of the shift. So we try all kinds of things. And so I do think that that's such a good point. And I, again, will emphasize the video. You can make it closed for just your business. So it's not out there for everybody, but it's so easy for everyone to see how you want it done. And it takes no time and costs you literally just labor time.
Yeah, and I like what Adrian has to say. It starts in training. You tell, demonstrate, and they demonstrate. Exactly. That is really the key. Because I'm not a great book learner personally, or telling me something. I'm a very visual, hands-on person. As you can see, I'm talking with my hands nonstop. So, but I really need to actually do something, and then I feel like I have the task. I don't learn very well by just giving me verbal cues, unfortunately. So I just think
And
that
that's ironic because I am such a verbal processor. And
really,
so it is. And so my staff will used to make fun of me because I would ask them a question and then I'd think it through and talk about it and come up with a solution. And they're like, we didn't really need to be here for any of that, didn't we, Anna? Because I will like totally process it out loud. So again, and there's the language of communication. I mean, languages of love. There's a version for businesses, that book, and Carrie always talks
yeah, the
about it.
5 love languages, but they do it for business. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a great thing to know so that you can figure out how your staff communicates. And those little apps, God, they love that stuff. Put it on there too. And if maybe somebody who wants to use Monday, if Ben is on this call, he can school us all on how to use Monday to teach people and checklist like crazy. So yeah,
Yeah,
lots of tools.
exactly. And I guess the moral of this whole talk is basically, look, have your operations manual in place, your standard operating procedures. Really, we can help you out with that. The Dog Gurus has a wonderful product where it's already done for you, because it is a huge project to get all these things out on paper and to refine it. And it's a constant refining of your system as well. So maybe you already have one put together. I would look at updating it at least once a year, because things change. How you want to do things as you grow, you're probably going to change on how you do your systems. But if you don't have one or want to take a look at what we offer, the Dog Gurus does have one available that's already done for you. It's a PDF format where you can actually plug in your own, business name and your logo. It makes it very easy. I'll put it in the chat right here. That's awesome. And yeah, that's a really great start.
I, just to add in on that, I love the Pet Guru College position training checklists. And so I know you have to be a member for Pet Guru College for that, but they have it by position. You don't have to put much thought into it. You can literally print it out for lodging counselor and it will tell them they need to read this PDF, fill this form out, watch this video. It's really, really great and comprehensive. And so again, we don't have time to really redesign all of that. And so just being able to download it is a super awesome tool.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll make the job go from a couple days, a week maybe, where it used to be a couple months. It's only going to take you about a week. So definitely check it out if you're interested. I put the link in the chat. And then if there's not any other questions, I guess we'll wrap it up. Anything else, last words that you want to put out there?
I just think, everyone needs to stay positive. I know that sounds maybe, like cliche, but we're heading in. I know I'm feeling the stress of, oh my gosh, Memorial Day is around the corner. We always have all these expectations and blah, blah, blah. You know what? Take a deep breath. Use the tools that are out there for you. Don't try to do everything on your own from scratch. And you'll enjoy your team a lot more the better and more you train them and communicate. I can't overstate communicating enough.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining me today, Anna. We really, really appreciate it. It was a great discussion. Lastly, I'll say if you're not a member yet, we would definitely like you to invite you to join our Grow Your Pet Care Business Facebook group. I put the link in the chat. It's a great community to be a part of. It's good to get a lot of ideas from other pet business owners. But if you also have a question and need advice, that is an awesome place to post your question. And tons of people are so helpful and willing to chime in on whatever question you might have. We only have 2 rules for that group, and that is to be nice and no selling. So I think that does it for us today. Everyone enjoy the rest of their day, smile at a stranger, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.